Well. Like we were right, it's hit the fan. So let's dive in and talk about it.
Oh boy. Thank you to Orlando on this one. Once again, the President of the United States proves that he cannot chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. It was he who fell up the stairs on Air Force One yet again. So, of course, I had to do the falling upstairs intro and disclaimer and what the hell is wrong with this fucking guy? It is, folks. It is that kind of a world. I mean, if that was our only problem, we'd be A-okay. But that's not our problem. I mean, really? He's going to fall up the stairs again? You would think he would never again try any of that. Hey, look at me trot up these stairs. I'm a spry old 80-year-old guy. I actually did. Well, I won't call it running upstairs. I'll call it lumbering up the stairs at an accelerated pace. I did that today, went up 2 flights of stairs, and I was a little bit winded, but I did not trip, fall, and make an ass out of myself. I guess there's a lot of pressure when you're the president and your name is Biden. Can you imagine, though, this fucking clown? He's in everyone's crosshairs every single day. Folks, you and I on the side of freedom and liberty have no love for this creepy old fuck. And on the left, I want to bring up this point. The left-wing politicians, the left side of your screen, those guys way over there, way on the left, they don't have any love for him either. Some scuttlebutt was going back and forth on the R Syndicate back channel where we communicate. And the discussion was about Biden. And I just threw some thoughts out there, and I'll throw them out to you here. Because we really don't discuss a whole lot of top secret stuff. No secret scroll. Dakota Ring needed to interpret what we're saying. But Joe Biden, in my opinion, is the ultimate fall guy for the Democrats, for the deep state, for the World Economic Forum. He's the ultimate fall guy. Why is that? Because, get this, folks, they can use him, and he can make every stupid decision that they need him to make. And whenever it's convenient, whenever they need, they can pull the rug out from under him, pull the trigger, push him down a flight of stairs, and he's gone. And they don't have to worry about him ever again. Because once Biden is gone, they'll just say, what are you asking us about Biden for? It has nothing to do with us, right? So, yeah, it's quite interesting. Biden is the fall guy. He's the fall guy for First Amendment, usurpations and censorship and violations, and same with the Second Amendment and any other, for his violations of the Constitution, for his violations of the trust of the American people, for the violations of the trust by our allies, the sanctity of his oath. All they have to do is get rid of Biden. Now, very interesting here, right? Earlier today, Biden basically confessed to Nordstream, the terror attack, the explosion of Europe's energy supply coming from Russia. And this is his quote. "We mobilized to reduce dependence on Russian energy." We mobilized to reduce dependence on Russian energy. We mobilized what? We mobilized our liquefied natural gas, LNG, compressed natural gas, the CNG, whatever letters you want to attribute to it. Yeah, we mobilized and got all our stuff together and then pulled the plug on Russia. Yeah, we mobilized, to save the world from Russian energy. Russia is pretty damn pissed about it too, folks. Pretty pissed about it. Let's see if we can find it. We'll look over in this file here. Folks, we got files on top of files on top of files. And Russia is they're just lampooning, lambasting, and pointing out what a bunch of lying sacks of shit there are in Europe. Where is that story? It is right here, folks. Coming right up. We don't want to talk about that Florida doctor. We don't want to talk about that mushroom cloud. We don't want to talk about that person. This is what we want. This is what we want. Are you ready? Right? There is a UN investigation, the United Nations investigation, put forward by Russia and others saying we need to take a look at what happened with Nordstream. Well, the United States is stonewalling, not giving up any data. But Russia comes out and says, we know, they know, everybody knows the USA is lying. Everyone knows, folks. It's not a secret. It's a secret that's out in the open. Everyone knows, but can you prove it? You see, that's what the investigation is supposed to do, is provide the evidence necessary. So Russia requested the UN Security Council have an inquiry. And Russia's spokeswoman, Maria Zakharova, has said the problem is that Americans are simply lying. And I want to say this to Maria. It is not Americans. It is the White House, Joe Biden, and the White House spokespeople and the Pentagon. They're the ones who are lying. But I get what they're saying. This is a quote from Nebenzia. We have strong reasons to doubt the effectiveness, transparency, and impartiality of investigations that are being carried out under some national jurisdictions. We do not see our partners being eager to cooperate. Well, of course not. If you were being investigated for a crime, would you cooperate? Right? In America, we have this thing like a protection against self-incrimination. It works for, the government, not us so much. They'll do everything they can to force you to incriminate yourself. But, in international politics, they don't appreciate that. They expect people to be honest. You're out of your mind. But Biden, right, before he has to admit things fully, this is pretty interesting. Let's not go to that one yet. Someone ended up dying. Someone ended up dying in Arkansas, of all places. Oh, by the way, get your questions down below for Uman. In Arkansas, we had a little bit of problem, right? The police have ruled that the death of a former Clinton aide, he's dead now, so he's now former Clinton aide, Mark Middleton. He was found dead. And guess what the police rule? It is suicide. So he's hanging from a tree, and he's been shot in the chest with a shotgun, and no sign of gun at the scene of the crime. Sounds like suicide to me. Hanging from a tree. Folks, you hang from a tree by your neck. Is this starting to make any sense to anyone? Right? Special advisor to Bill Clinton from Little Rock. Connected to former president to deceased pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Died last May. So here we get the details, right? We get the details of this guy's death. What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet that Joe Biden could end up going the same way, right? He could have a suicide accident. Just unbelievable, folks. These people are crazed and out of their minds. It's a great way to convince others, hey, remember, you better be quiet, not say a word, or you could end up like Middleton in the middle of a tree with a hole in the middle of your chest. Well, we had someone else who ended up with almost a hole in his chest or a hole in his head, Kyle Rittenhouse. This is the SHTF world we're in now. Do you feel safe? You're like, Ma, I don't work for the Clintons. I'm not in Washington politics. I don't got to worry about nothing. I think you should be prepared. You should have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense because of things like this. Kyle Rittenhouse. Remember this kid? He went to Kenosha, Wisconsin. He went somewhere and wanted to help out, keep the peace, protect people, help the injured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ended up getting chased down, running for his life, literally. Ended up shooting and killing 2 people and took a dude's arm clean off in self-defense. He was being threatened with death, beaten with the skateboard, and someone pulled a gun on him and was going to blow him away. So he's being sued now. He was found innocent of murder and attempted murder and mayhem and everything else. He has a lawsuit being filed by Gage Grosskreutz. This is the guy that was shot in the arm because Grosskreutz pointed a gun at Kyle. Pointed a gun at him. He was going to shoot him. So now the guy that was going to shoot Kyle had to defend himself, is suing him. See, folks, this is the insane world we live in. If you don't protect yourself, you end up with a hole in your head or in your chest, like Mr. Middleton in Colorado or Arkansas. And if you do defend yourself and you don't kill the guy, he's going to sue you. And if you do kill the guy or girl, then you're going to be sued for wrongful death. You can't win, folks. Not in a world run by lunatics. We've got some big changes that need to happen, and I think they're going to happen. Anyways, Kyle Rittenhouse is being sued, right? For what? For not making a headshot with the AR-15. I almost said the F-15. Yeah, that's what Joe Biden has. We have AR-15s, and they have the F-15s or F-16s. Now, get this. All right. Why is he being sued? For stopping the murder of himself, he's being sued. Folks, politics has entered the courtroom, and it's there to destroy our rights. Right? I mean, if you want to file a frivolous lawsuit, fine, you file it. But I would expect that the judge would sanction the attorney filing it and throw it out in summary judgment. A bullshit stamp on the thing, right? This is the world we're in, though. Are you prepared? The left thinks they have a right to silence you, to punish you, to threaten you, to kill you if they feel offended, right? And they don't think your rights matter, your self-defense. Are you prepared? Do you know your rights? Are you willing to stand up for your rights? Are you willing to stand up for life? Or are you going to be a victim in the street or a victim hanging from a tree, having committed suicide with a gun that's not even present? Unbelievable. What is happening, folks? Right? You know, we know, everyone knows. Russia knows, Europe knows, and now the people know. The lying and the bullshit, folks, is not going to end anytime soon. Woo! I tell you. Let's do this. Let's have some fun, shall we? All right, we have an actor out there. Actor, age 28. His name is Jansen Panettiere, the brother of actress Hayden Panettiere. Died, age 28. Unexpectedly, suddenly, no foul play suspected. Why would there be foul play suspected? Anyways, news stories, how they put this shit out there. It's kind of a TMZ thing. No foul play expected. No, I wonder what it was. Is he just acting? He is, after all, an actor. He actually had a part in the Walking Dead. That's right. Is he just acting dead, or is it, well, could it be the Jim Jones juice? It continues to take its toll, continues to take lives, and we can thank Dr. F, Dr. Doom. You bet. Now, we had another explosion. We've had train wrecks, truck wrecks. We've had spills, fires. We've had food destruction, everything else. And now we have this, right? An industrial facility in Medley, Florida, wherever the hell that is in Florida. 2 dead, 3 injured. Explosion at an industrial facility. Is it just me? Or are we just paying too close of attention and looking for this stuff now? You know, this is where discussions with Uman are very interesting because he looks up statistics and he actually beat Pete Buttigieg to the punch by providing you with valuable information going, well, yeah, 40 years ago, there were 5,000 train derailments a year. And now we're down to just over 1,000. And then Pete Buttigieg came out there and said the same thing, tried making excuses for stuff, said, well, when I was mayor, we kept a very close eye on this stuff and dealt with lots of emergencies. And he's just not taking any more questions. These people, folks, what is going on? Right? Coincidences or what? Now, I mean, it's when I add everything up. If you just said John train wreck, I'd be like, yeah, train wreck, they happen. If you said John news anchor gets fired, okay, news anchor gets fired. But Fox News, folks, has basically decided to not talk about President Trump at all. I see this as a proof of censorship and how pathetic Fox is as a news channel. A former president goes to East Palestine, is met with accolades and signs and fuck Joe Biden flags and everything else because they love him there. And he showed up and gave a shit. Where's the president of the U.S.? Joe Biden was overseas kissing Zelensky's ass and who knows what else on Zelensky he was kissing, right? People come to listen to President Trump, who actually has no real authority at anything, right? But Fox won't mention this. Where is the mainstream media, folks? Well, it's going to be interesting. Who and how are we going to get our news? Is it going to get so bad that people, one, refuse to watch CNN, ABC, CBS, and that if something bad happens, you and I will be censored here on YouTube? Well, they're not going to censor us, folks, if I can help it on the preparedmind.club and on subscribestar.com, but they're going to try. They're going to do all they can. That's why we need to keep up on this. And if the whole screen ever goes, blackout, look out. We're going to be on our own, thinking for ourselves. That's why understanding where you're at is so important. So important. Knowing what works and what doesn't. Well, like this. I mentioned just a few minutes ago, a Florida doctor. Well, guess what? He was testifying to the effectiveness of horse paste, not only to treat horses, but also cerveza bug. Well, he was kicked out of a hospital board meeting for daring to talk about this stuff. Hey, horse paste works. I have taken it. Numbers of other people have taken it. I've never gotten cerveza bug. If I did, the horse paste killed it. Right? And we can't have that. This news story brought to you by Pfizer. Fucking Pfizer. Unbelievable. Pfizer. They're here to help you. That's right. Hospital board kicks doctor out for mentioning a pharmaceutical that is not made by Pfizer. Unbelievable. Okay. It's incredible, folks. Get this. Here's more. Are things getting better or are things getting worse? Should you just ignore what's happening or should you pay attention? It is a wild, wacky hump day Wednesday, folks. It is. Now, McDonald's is introducing chicken nuggets. And you're like, wait a minute, I've heard of chicken nuggets. They've been around for decades, John. No. These are plant-based chicken nuggets. I don't know how they can even call them chicken nuggets. Chicken flavored something or others. It's rather incredible. Chicken nuggets. Watch them fail, folks. Just like Impossible Meat in all the restaurant chains. It wasn't just McDonald's or Burger King. Burger King really pushed the Impossible Meat being, it tastes just like meat. And I was thinking, okay, something that's not meat that tastes like meat. Where did they get the fake animal protein? And what the hell it, right? I found out, and it was very vomitous. But at the stores, when we're having trouble keeping meat in the meat aisles, when they played their, they did their beta test on removing meat in the stores, the only meat that was left was meat that wasn't really meat. That's right. The fake meat in the aisle was still there, and no one touched it. But all the other meat was gone. Watch them fail here, folks. Market is us. We are the real market. We're the retail market, and we reject their fake shit. But guess what, folks? Do not think we've won. The World Economic Forum, the globalists, are going to force on us their demands in the future. They've introduced Impossible Meat, and it failed. They're introducing plant-based nuggets with real chicken flavor. Expect it to fail. One of these days, though, folks, I expect this. It's going to be, beef or chicken. But it's not going to be 100% real beef or 100% real chicken. It's going to be a combination. Wait till they try the combination. Hey, meat is so expensive. We're going to go with the plant-based meat mixed with real beef, and it still tastes great. It's mixed with real chicken, so it still tastes great. Don't worry about it. It's just going to be mRNA-laced fake chicken meat with, it's coming, folks. They are screwing with everything. Mark my words, another prepared mind prediction. Not 100% meat coming your way. Unbelievable. And speaking of food, get your questions down below. Get your thoughts, your comments. What did you see today? Very important stuff going on. I'm hitting some highlights, but I want to know what you are thinking. And folks, again, it's your questions, your thoughts that drive this show. Your take, your perspectives, and your lines in the comments section. Your questions that come up on the screen. And if you're a part of the preparedmind.club, a premium member, only $2 a month, or Subscribe Star, $2 a month, you can join us here daily, weekly, all week long. You're a premium member. We're talking. Now, back to food. A company called Reckitt, Reckitt. The name does not lose itself on me. Reckitt. They have recalled, get this, 145,000 cans of baby food. That's a lot of baby food, folks. And it's still considered a shortage out there, according to a news article. And I say, what's in a name? What's in a name? Reckitt. I'll tell you what's in a name, right? It almost sounds like they're playing games with us. They're like, wreck it, right? Yeah, they wrecked it, folks. Okay, let's see. Michael Brown sent me something. He says, let's see, the real news. Yep. This is interesting. Michael Brown sent me a story, and I need some more information. A national security complex is on fire, burning uranium. What is the national security complex? Does anyone else have links to this story? It's interesting if they have a uranium fire or a nuclear fire burning in the national security complex. I've been wondering about shit like this happening. I've been wondering, when is it going to happen? Right? Things like this just don't happen. They happen because systems fail. Safeties are turned off. And everything these days, folks, is hooked into the internet. Ridiculously. Unbelievable, right? And this quote coming from Elon Musk the other day made a lot of sense to me. He said to the woke military, he said, quote, "Your strategic imperative is defending the United States." Right? That's their strategic imperative. Is there a moral imperative as well? And this is, for Musk, a big duh, right? It's that for the whole country. It takes Musk to say this before it hits the Pentagon, that's what their job is. They're like, wait a minute. We're supposed to have a strategic, imperative, a first order of things. Well, their first order is social experimentation, right? Making sure all the woke people are taken care of, right? Screw the rest of the world, screw the American people. That's been their attitude. It is a big duh, folks, but at the same time, because they're not taking their charge seriously, we are suffering the consequences of it. We truly are. Okay. Anyways, yeah. National security, not an imperative. Right? Securing, protecting the United States, not a big deal to these people. Right? Now get this. Right? Keith Olbermann, mainstream media dweeb, says Fox News needs to be closed. Fox is almost as terrible as all the other ones, but he thinks it's bad enough. It's still enough of a risk that it is a national security threat, right? Unlike Afghanistan and balloons and Hunter Biden's laptop and the biolabs, Joe's mental acuity, his ability to walk up a set of stairs, and politicize law enforcement. Unlike those things, apparently, we need to get rid of Fox News because it's a problem. This is where we're at, folks. These are their priorities. This is what they really give a shit about. Do you see what kind of trouble we're in? What kind of trouble you're in, I'm in, we're all in? It's freaky fucked up. Okay. Senator McCarthy apparently is given the 41,000 hours of Capitol Hill J6 footage. He's given it to Tucker. And at first I thought, this is fine. Give Tucker the footage. But nobody else got it either. As much as I like Tucker, I don't think he is the repository for all things we need to know about it. It needs to go through the Tucker filter first. And I also said, why isn't McCarthy releasing choice pieces of footage? Why isn't McCarthy impeaching President Biden? There are people who have been in jail for 1 year or 2 years. They're still there because they're being, shall we say, fucked over by the federal government and the Washington, D.C. political authority system. Meanwhile, McCarthy is playing games and not taking responsibility. He should be the one out front releasing information and saying, this is what it is. It is a farce. It is bullshit, etc. It really is a problem that McCarthy won't take a stand. He's not publicly talking about anything, and he's not laying blame where it needs to be laid. And he's not getting rid of the threats and the risks to the United States of America, which is the Biden family, including Joe Biden. He's not he's not impeaching them. He should be right now putting together a case and telling and explaining to the American people why we need to get rid of this clown. And we do need to get rid of Joe Biden, folks. Now, Joe can't seem to say anything without stumbling and fumbling. Can't seem to walk up into the flight of stairs to Air Force One. And he was asked about Putin, Vladimir Putin of Russia, just walking away, pulling out of the nuclear treaty with America. Joe said, I don't have time. What don't you have time for, Joe? Time to explain it or time to deal with it, period? For what? What don't you have time? You have time to hug Zelensky and squeeze him and take a little walk with Zelensky. What a giant piece of crap, in my opinion, is this guy. He doesn't have time for the world's other nuclear superpower that he has been fighting a war against using Ukraine. He doesn't have time to think about that, or he just doesn't have time to explain himself to the media, who in turn are supposed to explain to us what the hell is going on. Can't trust, in my opinion, any of them. Any of them. This is the world we're in, folks. Let's do this. Let us switch over, if we shall. Let's go over to Ask John Live. I want to see if you want to be in the inner circle. Alrighty, we got Mr. Ooman back there. He has the big mighty blue wrench, keeping an eye on the comment section, making sure everyone's getting along nice, as well as monitoring and looking for great questions coming out of the crowd, you guys. All right, Ooman, who do we want to put up? Who has some interesting thoughts? And we're going to start with James Nicholson. He says, hey, John, I understand the CDC has recently changed the MSDS for the train chemical spill. That's been out for several days, Mr. Nicholson. Yes, he says, they seem to have removed the cover sheet explaining the simple description of what the chemical does to you. And it is not good. Right, let's see. Let's get rid of some valuable information on the MSDS. And I believe they also changed the tolerable or allowable limit in parts per million. But there's problems, folks. I saw a meme today, had a woman with 3 breasts, and it said, this is a future look at Ohio beauty pageants. And yeah, while that's a joke, it's not a joke that the problem with this chemical is it's getting into everything. Years and years ago, back in the 70s and then the early 80s, right? America, Soviet Union, Europe, it really was becoming a toxic mess in lots of places. But the world said, hey, let's just clean this shit up, right? It's not going to go away on its own. And they started doing that. They came up with this material safety data sheet system for worker safety, for public safety, so we knew what the chemicals were. And the manufacturers were responsible for providing accurate information to help save lives and save the cost of employing people, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here we are now. They're changing things. See, when you change the truth to a lie to serve a convenient problem, in other words, so they can deny that there's a problem there. Oh, yeah, humans can take up to 1,000 ppm, parts per million, say, of a particular chemical. That sounds like, whoa, only 1,000 parts per a million. That's not a problem. Well, it's actually 0.1%. And apparently it's way more than enough. Now, be that as it may, folks, let me give you some other ideas, right? Chlorine in a pool. You've smelled chlorine in a pool. I'm sure you have. Would you find it fascinating that 5 parts per million and you can smell it? Only 5 little minuscule parts per million, you can smell it. But another chemical, right, that's been spilled on this train caused a huge cloud, making people gag and be sick, apparently killing animals left and right. That can be 1,000 parts, no problem at all. Not good. James and everyone else, I think what we need to understand is that it's not just this chemical, and it's not just in East Palestine, Ohio. It is everywhere across the nation, and it is every chemical The government can just change its mind and say, this is fine. Accidents, problems, everything's fine. Just like the Jim Jones juice. It's fine because they say it's both safe and effective. And so therefore you give it to old people, you give it to, well, kids, even infants. And when they die, you just say, hey, it's safe and effective. We can really trust them, huh? Not so much, right? Not so much. We can't trust them. Hey, Joe Biden wants to cause so many problems that Putin says, fine, we're going to get out of your nuclear weapons treaty. We're in that world now, folks. We're in that room. We're not in the good room. We're not in the playroom. We're not in the fun room, not in the free room. We're now in the room with World War III, nuclear war being threatened on all sides. And I wonder what they're going to do if they want to start a ground war. Would they have enough recruits? Well, we know the Army's recruiting is down 25%. That's a lot, folks. They're off 25%. Could it be that the people don't want to enlist under Joe Biden? They don't want to belong to a woke military where if you go to take a shower at the end of a long day of training, you have to risk being butt rammed by someone who identifies as another gender while they obviously have the plumbing of the male gender. It's just what a ridiculous world we live in now. Did I mention it's ridiculous? People have had it. Police have had it. This was really fascinating when I read this, that Governor DeSantis, Florida, has had over 600 police officers from other states, right, who want to accept the relocation offer to come to Florida. Probably the entire South is getting a lot of attention from other states, but how about that? What is that saying about Governor DeSantis? What does that say about Florida? What does that say about law and order? Remember, DeSantis is on tour talking about law and order and justice. And we're seeing some incredible things. You know, people who want to be cops, that's great, right? Treat the people right because the people are your bosses and they want to go to Florida. What an interesting concept. Law, order, and justice. Okay, man, where do we want to go next, man? What's on the people's mind? Get your thoughts down below. And we've got the Italian hillbilly, Kaz. He says this, okay. I can imagine him saying this. So when we invaded Iraq the first time, he hit infrastructure, comms, power, manufacturing, etc., and we had stealth fighters. Now imagine you want to take down a country but don't have stealth fighter jets. Would you not send in stealth fighters, as in infiltrators, sleeper cells to facilitate the coming boots on the ground invasion, collapse the infrastructure, power, economy, then comms, and eventually hit the beaches? I think what he's referring to is the apparent attack on our infrastructure in this country. We've seen it in the form of they went after our gas pipeline. That's right. Right. The pipeline that runs from Texas all the way up to New England. Anyone remember that name of that pipeline that was held hostage by ransomware? Anyone? We'll see if someone gets that up on the screen. We've had attacks on our infrastructure in other ways. We've had what appear to be coincidental accidents at our fuel refineries. We've had coincidental attacks on our power grid, whether it's in Oregon or Washington or over on the East Coast in North Carolina. Right? These coincidences. We've had attacks on our food system. We've had attacks on our rail system, pipe bombs. Right? So is this Johnny Reb, the South, right? Conservatives in the South, or is it international communists that have been smuggled in through Mexico? I don't know for sure, but it looks like, I mean, the best case I think you could make is that they're practicing. They're getting some warm up. But I really don't think, Mr. Hillbilly, yet that we've seen infiltrators really do their business. If they wanted to cripple this country, they could. All they would have to do is coordinate their attacks in one big way on, say, the power structure. Not just a couple of transformers in Ohio, not just a few power substations in North Carolina, but all across the country, from sea to sea and border to border, hitting every single substation and knocking them out. That would, folks, blacken America. It would be blackout USA. If something like that happens, Mr. Hillbilly, I'm going to say, okay, we're being hit from the inside. They don't have stealth fighters over our country. They have stealth infiltrators filling a mission. So one day they could take out all the electricity. The next day they could start taking out, say, the roads or the railways to cripple our infrastructure. It wouldn't be hard to take a backhoe, right, and rip up the train tracks in as many places as they can. This is the fear I have, or the thought and concern I have regarding our infrastructure and our security as a free state, a free nation. Very interesting stuff. Are we going to see that kind of action? And if so, what is the government going to do? What indicators have they given us that they would stop this from happening? Well, let's just go back to that pipeline that was taken over with a cyber attack and ransomware. Joe Biden said, hey, it's not a problem for the federal government to deal with. Sounds like it's a private issue. Let's see, you're trapping billions of dollars in energy. You're holding someone for ransom. You're holding a business for ransom. That sounds like it's crossing federal lines, right? State lines. It's affecting state to state to state. And it sounds like, extortion is being applied. But federal government said, nah, not our business. During 2020, the summer of love, we had left-wing lunatics from sea to sea, coast to coast, having their riots. And Democrat governors, Democrat mayors, Democrat city councils did nothing. Right? Once again, they were allowed to commit these crimes. So we know, folks, that there is the ability to take down our infrastructure, take down our communications, take down our energy, and affect things. And then we know that, right, they have willing accomplices in the media and in government. So, Mr. Italian Hillbilly, the worry is, right, that they could do something dramatic. So far, it's been hit and miss and spotty. But if you look at the scenario, or if you go back to last night's video and listen to the scenario where I said, hey, what if the power goes out on the West Coast and then the East Coast starts flickering? And then a few hours later, it's dark, it's shut down, and then night falls and you start hearing gunshots. What do you do, right? Just an interesting thought. If they were to coordinate an attack, they could cause some serious damage. Interesting stuff. All right, Uman, who do we want to put up there next? We have Bob Hunter, I believe from Scotland. And he says, poisoned land, government can seize your land under emergency measures, i.e. steal your land. Here in America, it's quite a bit different, I think, than England, Scotland, Ireland, Canada. They can't steal your land, but they can declare it unsafe. I don't think they take title of the land, but they can kick you off of it or keep you off of it because it's a health risk, a very serious health risk. If your land constitutes a threat to other people's land, adjacent parcels, those two can be not taken, but forced to be evacuated. This is a big concern still, right? Whose fault is it? Why is the land contaminated? Right? They don't ask who benefits. They will never ask that. They're the government. What they're interested in is power and authority. But seizing your land, interesting. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if this thought didn't cross their minds. There's been some discussion for many years, Bob, in America, that they're trying to force Americans in a relatively underpopulated country, forcing all the people into large metropolitan areas where they can be easily controlled, contained, corralled, and corrupted. Meanwhile, freeing up all of the vast, beautiful landscape for themselves, these rich dopes, right? They want to say, yeah, that's my area. There's no one living in it because everyone's in these cities. So how could they do that? They want to scare people out of the country. It's dangerous, right? Chemical spills? Wonder if that's one of the ways they're going to do it. Certainly a possibility. But, I had some issues with the claims that were made about the chemical spill. Right, we had animals dying, wild animals, domestic animals, pets, farm animals. And I said, how many humans have died? And the answer at that time was, well, we don't know of any, John. But now we're starting to hear people who are just getting sick, right? The land is poisoned. They're getting sick. And so will the government try something like that? Will they try saying, hey, until this emergency is resolved, until the land is cleared and cleaned, you're not allowed to go back to your homes? Government, it takes a lot of, shall I say, unauthorized and very alarming steps when they detect an emergency. And that's really something that they may just say, Bob, is, well, it's still your land, but for the purposes and time that this emergency exists, you're out of here. You don't get to be on it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I tell you. Okay, let's move on. Thank you again, Bob. You've been around a great deal of time. We appreciate your support. Now we have Uman. And he says this: apparently the Y-12 National Security Complex is where the first atom bomb was developed. Okay, this story is bouncing off of our friend Michael. And he contacted me earlier and said, hey, this National Security Complex, we got a nuclear thing. So Uman says, train nuclear industry professionals, emergency response, naval reactors, deterrence, etc. So we're looking at New Mexico, Los Alamos area. Very interesting. The Y-12 National Security Complex. Know what else is associated with this area, folks? Drum roll, please. That's right. UFOs, aliens, extraterrestrials. That's right. Look out. There's all kinds of things about this Los Alamos, New Mexico, nuclear weapons, right? They had the nuclear weapons testing going on, and then they had, the Roswell incident. Kind of interesting. And then, wait. Uman says it's in Tennessee, just west of Knoxville. Go back, if you would, to your prior comment, if you could. Let me make sure I've got this correct in my head. It's where the first atom bomb was developed. I believe the first atom bomb was developed in Los Alamos. Am I incorrect? Or are you saying that the National Security Complex, they did some of the research? I'm a little bit confused here now. I know that they set off the first bombs way the hell out in the desert, not in the lush greeneries of the Kentucky or Tennessee Valley. Anyways, very interesting. Very interesting. What is going on and why? Do we have any other news, Uman, on what is this? What is the nature of this fire? It's in Tennessee, just west of Knoxville. Okay. Maybe they built it in Los Alamos. Stories say it was developed at Y-12. Uh-oh. Now we're stuck with this, huh? We're stuck with this. By the way, the scientists who worked on it, look out. They were some special kind of guys. Guys who invented the nuclear bomb. Many people don't know it, but apparently the Germans had their own but it's shrouded in fog of history. And they don't want to admit that the Nazis had a nuclear bomb, even though they had, a submarine full of, heavy water that was used for creating the elements needed for a nuclear weapon. I guess we'll never get the truth on a lot of this stuff. Right, the bomb was supposed to be in Los Alamos, but now we're hearing research was done elsewhere. Okay, man, who do we have? What do we have? What is up next? It's Orlando. And this is interesting. He says, when you start seeing news consistently distracting and lying, and the real truth tellers start disappearing rapidly, it's time to start preparing for something big to happen because it's coming. In Orlando, this is what we have all been saying, have we not? Right? We're not getting the truth. We're not getting the facts. We aren't getting it from the media. We're not getting it from, the president. We're not getting it from our state governors. Right? We're not getting it from medical professionals. We're not getting it from the military. Everything that we get is lies and agenda-driven bullshit. So what do we look for? We look for, the absence of news and the absence of reports, where we find a story that seems really big, but it's being ignored. Yeah, it's in, what do we call it? Reuters. It's in Associated Press. But it doesn't show up in the mainstream media. Why not? Because there's an agenda there, right? It is. It's not time to start preparing, Orlando. I think it's time to make sure you're serious enough about it to deal with what is going on, because it's not going to get better. There's nothing stopping it, right? There's nothing stopping the powers that be, the military, the government. There's nothing stopping the European idiots out there. They're power-crazed, power-hungry people. There's nothing stopping them. So they're going to continue. So yeah, it's time to start, not just preparing, but being very, very, shall we say, soberly minded when you get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. And then we are going to have to be subjected to much more difficulty and pain before we get to the other side. All right. Thank you, Orlando. Great, great, great. I want to thank you, Michael. I want to thank Uman, everyone. What an awesome show. Bam. We've got a lot to talk about and keep going. Uman, do we want to throw up some more, or is it my turn? All right. There we are. Greg Madera checking in, says, John, heard minutes ago from a Foundation for Limited Government that Biden signed a document giving the World Health Organization absolute authority in a pandemic scenario in the USA. Now, believe it or not, Greg, this actually came out days and days ago, and we discussed it. And I am disgusted by it. This idea. The president thinks he can bypass the entire international treaty process, which is any international treaty needs to be signed by, 2/3 of the Senate before it can be ratified? Well, the president doesn't have the authority, folks. He doesn't have the power to do what he's doing. Yet, he's doing it. And I just want to remind everybody, Greg, that coupled with your story, right, there's a lot of people aware of what's going on here. And this is where I remind people, any law that is repugnant to the U.S. Constitution is in violation of it, and therefore, it does not stand. If we, the people, through our legislative bodies, cannot violate the Constitution with some ridiculous bullshit law, then what makes Washington, D.C. think that a foreign-made bullshit law can violate our Constitution? Furthermore, the Constitution guarantees a Republican form of government. That is to say, a government that is for the people, by the people, etc. And it can't be changed with mere voting, but rather there are bedrock rules to a republic. And so anything that is repugnant to that, or violates and creates a form of government that is not a republic, right? Is our government being controlled by foreign entities? Is that in any way, does that in any way resemble a Republican form of government? Or does that sound like a quasi-international medical dictatorship? No, thank you. And to go even further, our rights coming from God Almighty, and whether you look at that as a Catholic, Christian, or agnostic, or kind of a neutral spiritual perspective, there's a greater force up there, right? And it's what created us. And then we created government down below us to serve us, right? We have a right to get rid of anything that violates our good senses, our common sense, and our law. And we know what the law is. You know it every day. When you see someone do something wrong, you go, that shouldn't be. When you see something happening, you think, well, we should be able to fix those problems. That's what government was created for, was to fix those kind of problems, but not to ruin our lives, not to give authority over us to someone else. And I would think that the United Nations and any of their organizations or any other country, should it invade the coasts or drop in with parachutes, they would discover that the United States is full of very, very unruly Americans who are waiting for an excuse to use their cap guns, right? Bust a cap in the ass of a communist or a blue-helmeted tin pot dictatorial fool from the United Nations. Pandemic scenario. Didn't we just learn our lesson about that? I think we did. All right, man, have we got more? Have we got more? And we do. It's Orlando. He says, when you start seeing the news, we already did this one. There we go. Mr. X checks in. He says, we the people need to look where this stuff happens at, and what do the government get from it? It's like a puzzle. You bet. Where does something happen? Well, if something happens on a military base, so then they pass rules to fix this military problem, and the military becomes a less decent place, right? Let's just take Fort Hood, for example. When the military officer who was an Islamist decided he wanted to become a terrorist and commit an act of terror and start shooting people, right? Who let these fruitcakes in? To our military. I don't think you should be allowed in the military if you belong to a radical religious cult. A radical religious cult that hates America. Well, what about radical religious cults that love America? Someone asks. Well, name one. Name a radical religious cult that loves America. And we can play that game. We know all about these un-American people, right? You say, Mr. X, look where this stuff happens at. And what does the government get? Well, we got to see all across the nation, BLM and Antifa. What did they do? Well, inside Democrat cities, they went nuts. And what did the government get? Well, they got their ass handed to them. But they also got what? The public's ire. The government did not get what it wanted out of that. Yet the mainstream media continue to, their focus, their lies. It has just been a nightmare. You know what I want to say is I want to add to you, Mr. X. You say, we the people need to look where stuff is happening and what the government gets for it. When was the last time we the people? When was the last time that we the people had an increase in our freedom, had our taxes lowered, had our freedoms recognized? Right? Everything that's done, the government does and tries to use as an excuse to take our authority, take our rights, take our freedoms, right, and grant themselves more power. Right? Drones came out, the little toy drones. The government took them away and said, hey, you got to get permission from us to fly up there. That's our airspace. Every time we turn around, the government's saying it's theirs, it's theirs, it's theirs. We've got some big fights coming. I hope you are prepared. I hope you take the time. I hope you take it seriously. Ooh, man, are we done? If so, and I think we are, at perfect timing. We need to be prepared, folks. We need to understand the government's not going away. They will not back off. They will not back down. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Thank you to everybody for participating in this exciting episode called Wednesday. Hump Day SHTF style. I'll see you guys all bright and early. 0 dark 30. And I'm sure I'll have something, well, pretty dark to discuss. We've got World War III creeping in on us, folks. We have issues in our homeland. And we have a government, a seriously bad government, folks. A seriously bad government run by very bad people. And they are killing this country. We need to fight back. Prep to action. Get prepared and start calling and writing your congressmen, your senators, and tell them, live up to your oaths. Live up to them now. Godspeed. Semper Fi.